Hi, and welcome to our first virtual event for Treasure Coast Hospice. That's Amore, Eat, Learn, Love with Treasure Coast Hospice. I'm Agnes Palmer, the manager of philanthropic partnerships at Treasure Coast Hospice. I'm here tonight with my amazing co-host, Rich Mishak. Rich is a member of our Foundation Board of Trustees. Rich?
Thanks, Agnes. Glad to be part of this event and part of the Treasure Coast Hospice. Thanks to everyone joining us. I encourage you to stay tuned for the entire program. There's so much we have to share with you tonight. You'll hear from staff, volunteers, and patient families who will fill you with the latest happenings as well as the vital role that Treasure Coast Hospice plays in the community. I guarantee you will learn something you didn't know before tuning in.
If you're watching us live today, June 25th, you still have time to buy some raffles by going to treasurehealth.org/that'samore. Our supporters have been so generous for this event. We have big screen TVs, wine and spirit baskets, a sporting clay overnight experience at OK Corral in Okeechobee, and a girls' night out at the amazing Cake Lady in Fort Pierce. Raffles do close at midnight tonight, and winners will be drawn on June 26th.
I'm always amazed at the tremendous support of our community. A huge thank you to the companies that donated raffle prizes and to our segment sponsors as well. Simply put, as your local hometown nonprofit hospice, Treasure Coast Hospice could not offer the services we do to for our family, friends, and neighbors without your community support.
I agree, Rich, and stay tuned for a very, very special announcement from one of our sponsors coming up in just a little while. So are you ready to get started? Hopefully, if you're participating from our local service area, you've already registered and are enjoying your food from one of our participating restaurants. You know, Rich, we chose the name That's Amore for this event because amore in Italian means love, and everything we do at Treasure Coast Hospice is based on love.
That's so true, Agnes. The whole mission of Treasure Coast Hospice is to provide access to compassionate, caring, expert, and professional hospice and grief support services to patients and families at the end of life. Doesn't happen without love. Love for the community and from the community.
Kicking it off tonight is Indira Borgella. This was an unplanned segment, Rich, and before we hear from Indira, I just wanted to add that what she is going to share is what we hear very often from folks in the community when they hear about the work we do.
I'm normally behind the camera, not in front of it, but just a few minutes into shooting the segments for this event, I realized that I had to let people know what I discovered. I really thought Treasure Coast Hospice was a place where people spent the last days of their life. I literally had no idea about everything else that they offer to the community. I learned so much about what they do beyond taking care of people at the end of their life. I strongly encourage you to listen and learn. There may be something you hear that can help you. I know I did.
Indira hit on a great point. I sort of had the same impression when I learned about Treasure Coast Hospice so long ago. The myth about hospice is very real. We are there for the last chapter of someone's life. We are so much more than that. I'm excited to hear what everyone has to share tonight. Stay tuned and you will hear about programs we offer at Treasure Coast Hospice, including our community grief support, our children's services, and our veteran and pet programs, to name a few. I know we offer a lot of services to the community, Agnes. How are all those services impacted by the current COVID-19 pandemic?
Like everyone in healthcare across our nation, Rich, Treasure Coast Hospice was affected, but we never wavered from our vision of providing exceptional, quality, end-of-life care to every patient every time. Here's Jackie Kendrick, our Treasure Coast Hospice CEO, to tell you more about that.
Treasure Coast Hospice has taken care of patients and families for 38 years. Patients at the end of life, people that are grieving and need support, we've been here. A few months ago, the entire world was struck with COVID-19. It was new, it's an unseen, it's terrifying. We had meeting after meeting after meeting. What we discovered almost immediately is we were not prepared in supplies or in knowledge for this new pandemic. We normally order supplies every month and we know what we need. We don't have an excess on supply. When we discovered that we needed more, we reached out to our community, the people that have supported us for 38 years, and we told them what we needed. And they came like the cavalry. They came with calls and emails, and they came with, we have masks, we have hand sanitizer, we have gloves, we have donations. But our community came through for us. They came through for us like they always do, like they always have, to support our mission. And it was amazing. Our volunteers made over 3,000 masks that we wear and hand out to families. They wrote letters to our team. They wrote letters to our patients. Our team went out there, even though they were fearful for their own health and the health of their families, but they went out there and they took care of patients and families. And your letters and your support helped get them through the day. We are so incredibly grateful to our community for your support. We are so grateful for everything you've done for 38 years and for everything you've done now, because we couldn't have done it without you. You are the backbone to our mission. You hold our hospice heart in your hands. I believe the world knows now more than ever how amazing our healthcare workers are. To me, hospice is a very, very special portion of healthcare. We're the people who might be the last hand someone holds, the last kind voice they hear. Our team puts their whole heart into everything they do, because we know that we can never get a second chance to do it again. So as Treasure Coast Hospice has taken care of generations past, we're going to take care of generations future. We're going to take care of our neighbors and our friends and our families. We're going to take care of our community, and we need your help. As you've always supported us, we need your continued support. Whatever may come, we're going to be here, and we know you're going to be here with us, and we appreciate you.
Jackie really touched on the outpouring of love from the community for Treasure Coast Hospice. Thank you, Jackie.
She also captured perfectly the privilege we have as an organization to serve our community and the love and care we show to our patients and families. You know, Rich, I absolutely love what I do at Treasure Coast Hospice. I love that every day I get to share our mission with individuals and businesses on the Treasure Coast and give them an opportunity to partner with us in continuing the mission. And the reason I'm so passionate about my work at Treasure Coast Hospice is because of my personal experience with the organization, which was years before I began working here. As my dad's cancer progressed and the doctor spoke to us about him going on hospice, I, like many others, thought it meant that he was going to die in a few days. But as we researched Treasure Coast Hospice and listened to my dad's wishes about how he wanted to spend the rest of his life, we put him on hospice care. And during those few months he was on service with Treasure Coast Hospice, he was happy and he was comfortable. And for me, as his caregiver, having Treasure Coast Hospice there allowed me to continue to be a mom, a wife, a daughter, all while caring for my dad. And the best part, Rich, is that we had 2 extra months to create memories that I believe we wouldn't have had without Treasure Coast Hospice being there.
Wow, thanks for sharing your personal experience, Agnes. So many people support Treasure Coast Hospice because of their personal experience. And that support not only comes in the way of monetary donations from individuals and businesses, but also through the support of our incredible volunteers. We'll hear from one of our volunteers later in the program, but let's hear from Jimmy Ann Hazley, who is not only the financial supporter of the Treasure Coast Hospice, but proud to say she also serves in a volunteer capacity as our chairwoman of the Treasure Coast Hospice Operating Board.
Treasure Coast Hospice is really part of my family. They have served 5 family members, and each time it's been so gratifying, and I learned something different about the services they provide. It started with Gary, who was very ill, and what impressed me the most about that service was how they reached out to our children and the family members to provide them with all the counseling that they needed. They also served my parents and my mother-in-law. And during those times, my father was just sure he didn't want hospice in. But once hospice came there, he kept asking, when will they be back? And what really helped in that instance was with my mother, because my father was a little difficult and my mother needed a lot of help. And hospice absolutely provided that, from the chaplains to the social workers to the nurses. And from there, my aunt, Aunt Ruth, who is a dear member of our family, and she was at the hospice house, so it was a little bit different for us. In the other instances, we were able to keep our family members at home which was really great because they could stay with their dogs and their cats and have their family surrounded by them. But with Aunt Ruth, her caregiver, she was 101, and her caregiver was her sister, who was 99. And so her sister was pretty tired. So we put her in the hospice house, which was an unbelievably beautiful experience for us because the rooms were just very refreshing, soulful. We could go outside and walk in the garden, which was really helpful to all of us. But at the end, Aunt Ruth said, I really want to see a horse again. She loved pets. And so we got permission to bring a horse in, and that horse was Calvin. And when Calvin came in the room, my aunt was sound asleep. And we put her hand on Calvin's head, and she immediately woke up. Calvin put his head on her lap for about 30 minutes, and they had the best time together. The next day, my aunt passed away, but she had all of her wishes fulfilled. She had her sister with her, she had the horse with her, so it was a really great experience all the way around. So Treasure Coast Hospice, as you know, is a community-based hospice, and it's been around since 1982, and really I don't know what our family would have done without it.
Thanks, Jimmy Ann, for sharing the incredible care your family received from Treasure Coast Hospice. You'll notice, Rich, that Jimmy Ann talked about the care her loved one received at home and in our inpatient units. What most people don't realize is that we offer care in your home, assisted living facilities, independent living facilities, hospitals, as well as our facilities on our Martin and St. Lucie County campuses.
That's right, Agnes. Treasure Coast Hospice cares for an average of 380 patients a day, wherever they call home, and regardless of their ability to pay. As Jimmy Ann mentioned, one of those places is our inpatient units, affectionately known in the community as our hospice houses. We've had some very impactful upgrades to our inpatient units recently. Here's our IPU director, Shannon Cooper, to tell you more about it.
In our inpatient units, we're able to provide care for patients that are having symptoms, whether it be in the hospital or be in a home setting, they're too difficult for them to manage in a lower level of care. So we can bring them into our inpatient unit for a short stay, really address those symptoms that they're having a hard time getting under control, and then get them back home. In the inpatient unit, our team is made up of a remarkable group of clinicians who are trained in the hospice specialty. What that means for those families is that they're receiving care from a physician, a nurse, a certified nursing assistant, a social worker, and a chaplain. We work to meet physical needs quickly, but we also work to address emotional and spiritual needs. We are whole people that need to be cared for in a holistic manner. I'm so proud of our team in the inpatient unit with Treasure Coast Hospice in the way that they came together during this pandemic. It was never a question of whether we would provide care for patients who were COVID positive and their families. The only question was how we would do it. We came together and formulated a plan so that we could provide compassionate care to every member of our community, including those that were COVID positive. While ensuring that we provided the best care for our community, we also wanted to ensure that we provided the best protection for our staff, including all the appropriate PPE that they would need to provide care for COVID positive patients. Because of the generous support of our community donors, we've been able to make our inpatient units feel more modern, more homey. We were also able to provide state-of-the-art medical equipment so that people would be the most comfortable that they could be during their time with us. We were also able to purchase state-of-the-art beds that are not only incredibly comfortable for our patients, but allow our nurses ease of use with them in repositioning and providing personal care. We were able to install in-wall oxygen and suction, which allow us to receive patients that have high oxygen needs, and it also creates a much more peaceful and quiet environment for our patients and their families. Because of the generous support of our community, we're able to provide exceptional end-of-life care to every patient and every family, and we look forward to providing continued compassionate care for our community. A recent letter that we received sums it up perfectly. It says, "You held our hearts for a few days, and you will be in ours forever."
Thanks, Shannon. We are so grateful to our donors who have made all of the renovations and upgrades possible. I want to point out a few interesting things here in this segment, Rich. The stained glass window Shannon was speaking in front of is actually part of the original hospice house inpatient unit that was built in 1998 and destroyed by the 2004 hurricanes. It's really, really special that the new builders were able to save that and incorporate it into the new facility. I also wanted to mention that the beautiful room Shannon was speaking from was designed and donated recently through our partnership with Christ Fellowship Church, Port St. Lucie. They have plans also to redesign the family space in our Stewart facility as well as in the near future.
That is a beautiful room. What most people don't realize is that although patient care at the inpatient units is paid for by Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance, the maintenance and upkeep of the facilities is all funded by the Treasure Coast Hospice Foundation, which is supported by grants and generous donations from our community and grateful families.
That is so true, Rich. Almost all of the programs we offer at Treasure Coast Hospice that go above and beyond general patient care is paid for by donor support. I really want to encourage all of you watching from home to hang out with us for just a little bit longer and hear more about some of those services that make us so unique and vital on the Treasure Coast. Also, remember to stay tuned to hear a very special announcement from one of our sponsors that will absolutely knock your socks off.
I can't wait to hear the announcement. But first, one of those services that is so special focuses on honoring those that have served our country. Let's welcome Dennis Diamond as he shares his experience working on Treasure Coast Hospice as a volunteer in the Veteran to Veteran program.
What we really do with the program is we go and we visit veterans and we present them with a certificate of appreciation, a pin with an American flag, and also a blanket, which is quite interesting because the blanket is made by people who volunteer their services and make the blankets in red, white, and blue. My most memorable experience was this one incident or one situation where I visited a World War II veteran. Now what's unique about that is when, as a volunteer, you go into a home and you really don't know the situation. A patient could be in a bed, a hospital bed in the living room, or just sitting at a table. So I go into this home and the fellow's in his 90s and his wife answers the door and she says, please come in and have a seat. So I sit at the dining room table and I'm thinking I'm going to go into the bedroom or whatever. And here comes the gentleman out and he has khaki pants on and a golf shirt. Looks like he's ready to go to lunch. And she tells him to come over and he shuffles over and he sits down at the dining room table and we go through the process, present him with the certificate of appreciation and the blanket, and then I'm ready to pin him. And I said, tell me a little bit about your experience in the service. And he told me where he was, where he took basic training, and then he said he was a D-Day veteran. And he said as he was riding over on the troop transport, once they got to Omaha Beach, once the ramp went down on the troop transport, he was talking with his friend, and his friend was instantly killed by gunfire. And he was 19 years old or 18 years old, and he had to, as he went off the troop carrier, he had to step over the body of his friend. And he was continuing to talk, and I looked at his wife, and she looked surprised. And like as with some veterans, there'll be a pause when they talk, and then when I looked back at him, there was tears coming down his cheeks. And he continued his story, and then when he was done telling me, his wife said to him, honey, you've never told me that story. And he said, well, I didn't feel I had to. It was something he kept in all these years. And that tells you what that told me is how powerful the relationship is between veterans. It's nothing that I did. It's the fact that I was a veteran communicating with another veteran, and there's stories and tales that are told that really add value and relief to some of those veterans. As far as veterans getting involved in the community, what it means to the community, it's the reason we're here today when you think about it. I said the veterans that we see are people that sacrifice their lives to allow us to live the life that we live today. And so I would strongly say that any veterans out in the community that are not involved in a program like this, look into that, and if you have the time, I strongly encourage you to get involved, and I'm certain that it will grab you the way it grabbed me.
Our Veterans Program is such an incredible program. I actually had the honor of attending a veteran pinning ceremony, Rich. It was one of the ones shown in Dennis's segment, and it was truly heartwarming and meant so much to the veteran.
Treasure Coast Hospice is proud to be a certified Level 3 We Honor Veterans partner with Veterans Affairs and other veteran organizations. Our commitment to serving our veterans at the end of life has been noticed and honored by the financial support we've received from many of the veterans organizations in both Martin and St. Lucie counties. And we are so grateful to partner with them.
We really are, Rich. And speaking about amazing partners and supporters, Treasure Coast Hospice has received a tremendous amount of support from so many of the communities on the Treasure Coast, including Mariner Sands, Harbor Ridge, Ocean Village, Golden Ponds, and so many others. One of our major fundraising events, as you know, is the annual golf tournament normally held at Sailfish Point. That event is spearheaded by Rem and Cheryl Mays, and we are honored to have them here with us to share their story and learn why they support Treasure Coast Hospice. And listen carefully during their segment for the very special announcement we've been talking about.
Hospice was so meaningful in the departure of my wife and helping us every moment as a family to the moment she was gone, and holding our hands and keeping us all from falling apart. And I decided when I came here that I wanted to be involved with hospice. Treasure Coast Hospice is so important to the community that I'm a part of. My neighbors, I've relied upon them time and time again, and I cannot tell you what a warm and loving feeling that has brought to so many that I'm in touch with every day. If you're in a mobile home, or if you're in an extended care facility, or where you are, or what kind of funds or money you have backing you, hospice will be there, and they will take you right through with your family to a loving, beautiful ending.
So besides fundraising for hospice, I've had some experience with a friend that lives here in Sailfish Point, Bob Graves. Our Bobby passed away a couple of years ago under hospice care, and it was just a peaceful experience. I never realized that hospice was such a caring piece, and so many people here in Sailfish Point are aware of our hospice, our Treasure Coast Hospice. And our golf tournament every year is also soothing for a lot of people in here with our memorial signs, and it's a way to say thank you to hospice. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we will not be having our golf tournament this year, which is our biggest fundraising event, by the way. We want to keep it going. We want to keep this momentum going. And we're asking you, every one of you, to please donate. Pretend you're playing golf, but please donate to our community hospice. We're really happy to say that our title sponsor these last few years, Ferrara Construction, that we all know that works here in our community, is going to match our donations. So we hope that you raise some big money, open your hearts, and give to our community like you always have.
That's amazing! A $10,000 donor match challenge? Thank you to Ferrara Construction. So what that means is that if you donate $100, you're really giving $200 to Treasure Coast Hospice.
That's right, Rich. We are so grateful for Ferrara Construction and for all of our sponsors. Please take the time to donate today at treasurehealth.org treasurehealth.org/donate or treasurehealth.org/that'samore. As Rem and Cheryl said, we cannot do what we do at Treasure Coast Hospice without the support of the community. One of the services that is fully funded by grants and community generosity is our grief support program. Let's listen in to what Jackie Nardone, the director of that program, has to share. I bet you'll be surprised.
Treasure Coast Hospice Grief Support is provided to anyone dealing with the death of a loved one or anticipating the death of a loved one. We provide individual counseling, group counseling, family counseling, and our services are provided to children, teens, adults, the elderly, really anyone who is having a hard time with grief, we support them. One of the things that my team and I have discussed is how are we going to support the bereaved community once the social distancing and the restrictions lift? Because as we know, a lot of people have been stuck at home. They haven't been able to go visit their loved ones who may be in a hospital or a nursing home, as well as the piece that is so important when someone dies is to have that closure ritual, a funeral, a memorial service. So those things that help somebody grieve are not happening. So we really are ready to support people in probably a different way than we ever have. We know that people are really going to be struggling with complicated bereavement issues. And Treasure Coast Hospice Grief Support staff is ready and will be here for however long it takes for these people to be able to start feeling better and healing. Another service of Treasure Coast Hospice Grief Support is our crisis response and intervention team. Whenever there is something unexpected in our community, and we've all heard it on the news, a child may have been in a car accident or an employee unexpectedly died at a different agency in our community. We get called and we go right in and we work with so if we're at a school, we work with the students, we work with the administrators. We oftentimes are asked to help provide the education that's going to go out to the parents. When you hear the word grief counselors responded to the school or to the agency, that's us. Our Treasure Coast Hospice Grief Support team is out there supporting anyone at any time when there's been a death. Because of donors, because of our grant funders, we are able to provide grief support and education, be able to walk the journey with somebody who is dealing with the death of a loved one. A lot of our services and programs, and people don't know this, are provided to anyone in our community, not just our hospice patient families. We are very lucky and blessed to have that here in our community.
Thanks, Jackie. I want to make sure our viewers caught that Treasure Coast Hospice provides grief support services to anyone in the community, even if their loved one did not receive hospice care.
Our grief support programs are second to none, and we really do appreciate the support we receive for these programs. One group that supports our youth and family grief support is the Founding Friends of Treasure Coast Hospice. They not only financially support the program, but they are so active in helping make some dreams become a reality for some of our youth and teen clients.
There's another special program specifically for youth and teens that Treasure Coast Hospice runs every year called Camp Good Grief. Let's welcome back Jackie Nardone to tell us more about camp.
Camp Good Grief is one of our most well-known, wonderful programs that Treasure Coast Hospice offers. And this is one of the programs that is only made possible by the support of our community through donations as well as grants. Camp is a weekend retreat for 35 to 45 kids, ages 8 to 18. All these kids come from Martin, St. Lucie, and Okeechobee County. And they've all experienced the death of a parent, a sibling, an aunt or uncle, grandparent, a friend. Really, there's no loss that a child wouldn't be able to come to camp for. And when we have camp, it's such an amazing experience. I always share this story and I always want people to come and be part of it. But when these kids come on Friday night, a lot of them are really intimidated, apprehensive, don't want to be at camp. Sometimes they're gently forced by their family to go. And it's amazing to see within probably that 1 to 2 hours, these kids just are embraced by the love and support by our camp volunteers, the other kids that are there. And it probably happens so fast because they're in a cabin, a group with other kids that get it. They understand what it means to lose a parent or a family member or a friend. Probably the most emotional part of the weekend, but most healing for them. We have our music therapist is playing the guitar. We're by a beautiful campfire, and the kids write the most heartfelt letters, messages to their loved ones. Some of the kids will read them at the campfire. Some may only read a segment, but whatever they choose to say about their loved one or not, we then allow for them to release these thoughts, feelings, emotions, pain, all of this that they're feeling, by allowing the kids to toss the letter message into the campfire, and just watching the embers kind of float up and float away is really healing. And again, to describe it in words is, I try my hardest to do, but to see this happen, it's just unbelievable to see the transformation. Camp is probably one of my most favorite programs. I've been involved with camp for 20 plus years. Love camp, and it's possible because of the community support, so thank you.
Camp Good Grief is such a life-changing experience. When a child loses someone in their life, all they know is that they are sad, but they don't know how to express that grief. And camp really gives those kids and teens the tools they need to process their grief in a healthy manner. They really helped my daughter after the loss of my dad, so I know firsthand the positive effects of camp.
When you hear about hospice, you never really think about the kids, and I wish we didn't have to. But I am so glad that Treasure Coast Hospice is there to help grieving children in their community. And that's not the only way we help kids. Unfortunately, young people suffer from life-limiting illness as well, and we are here for them too.
Absolutely, Rich. Our Little Treasures program is our pediatric care program at Treasure Coast Hospice. The Mariner Sands community holds an annual fundraiser to benefit this program, and we are so grateful for their support. So let's hear now from Charity Ginger, the longtime chairperson of that event.
I think the Little Treasures program means so much because it gives part of our most vulnerable community a chance at the joy and happiness that the rest of us get a chance at our entire lives. You and I, we can go out and chase whatever dreams we have. We can be and do whatever we want, but these children and adolescents have a little bit of time, and we need to fit that whole life into just a couple of days, weeks, or months. I have been involved with Little Treasures probably 8 or 9 years. I've been the chairperson for seven years at our Mariner Sands annual gala, the Rose Ball. I started in the program because Molly McGrath invited me to help out with their silent auction. And so I started helping out, and then I took over the silent auction, and next thing I knew I was a chairperson. So I have an amazing committee who has agreed to stand by me so long as I stay the chairperson, and we're really happy to do it every year. And I think we become more and more family every year too. The Little Treasures program is now getting better, well known, I think, throughout the community. That knowledge has been a huge piece of our success. When I first started, and still somewhat today, when I talk to people about Little Treasures, they'll say, well, kids already have health care, everything's covered for them. But they don't know that that's not really the truth. And so we've been educating them on what's really included and not included in pediatric care, as well as things like music therapy and painting and grief support and all the things that bring support to the whole family, their siblings, and really gives them an outlet to express themselves in the time that they have here and leave memories behind. As we've shared that message and the community really understands, hey, this is uplifting not only for that one child, but for all the members of our community who are left behind when their angels go to heaven, it has a huge impact over years and years. So when people hear that and they start to see it in the families and the success that they've had, they want to be a part of it. So not only has our Treasure Coast community really rallied behind us, but my Mariner Sands community, I think the medical community is getting better at it as well, and really standing up and being willing to say hospice to a parent, which is a hard thing to do. And so I think all those things culminating with just the love that our team has for our kids, I think that that's really what stands behind our success. So I think that another big part of our success is really the children who've come through our program and have contributed both as children and adolescents and adults moving on to the future. So we've had several students that actually make painting for us, and we auction those paintings off as our event, and people love to see them. More importantly, I think, is their message in the videos that we show at our event. So we have one patient, Dylan, for example, who made a painting, and when he was asked what Treasure Coast Hospice and Little Treasure specifically means to him, he said that it was not just the things that were given to him. In fact, one of the first things he said is he wants to be able to help out other kids in the program, and that he values the time that he has with his volunteers because it gives his mom time to be alone and go through things like get prescriptions. So he's looking at the program like, how can I help? And how does this give resources to other kids and even my family, even though he's in the situation that he is? So I think our patients really are part of that pay it forward movement that we all look for. The Children's Holiday Party, I think, is the greatest thing. First, we auction off support of that at our event, and we have amazing loyal sponsors who battle for it every year because they want to be there and see it. It's really a time of joy where our kids and families can be together and have that experience that most people know around the holidays of having Santa and perhaps fake snow and unwrapping presents and being part of a peer group that they're not usually having that socialization outside of their family a great deal of the time. They get a lot of presents, but I think really that feeling of being a normal kid or a kid who can just go out without risk, I think that means the most to them, and I'm really thankful for our folks who sponsor it. So I mentioned a little bit about the increase of awareness, but there's still a long way to go. Part of that is just being able, like I said before, to say the word hospice. It's not a dirty word. It's not the last 48 hours of somebody's life. It's uplifting. It's having that grief support. It's having your family be with people who understand how difficult loss is and that it comes in waves over days and years ahead. And I think people just need to recognize that it's a positive thing. If you have hospice there, that means your last days are going to be better than they ever could have. And we all know our last days are coming sometime, so we need to be prepared and honest with the message that let's bring that goodness and happiness in every day that somebody needs and reach out for the support as soon as possible.
Charity is amazing. The work she does for Little Treasures program is truly wonderful. We would be lost without community members like Charity.
I can't wait to be back doing in-person events again, Rich. I love interacting face-to-face with our donors and supporters. But what I love most about that is being able to hear the stories from families who have walked the hospice journey with us. One of the many stories shared with us comes from our next guest, Jackie Brownie.
The pediatric program, Little Treasures through hospice, is very important and special to myself and my entire family in many ways. One main way I would have to say is I really don't know where I'd be today without them. We were on our way home from Miami Children's Hospital with the new knowledge that our daughter Camden Rose Brownie would be on hospice care. And within 2 hours of us returning home, the support had already started. A team of workers came in to assess Cammie in our home and what we had already had. And within an hour, there was already different equipment being delivered. Before hospice, being with Little Treasures, it was something my husband and I had to fight for through insurance and things like that, because there's a lot of things that insurance doesn't cover through hospice when somebody is on hospice. It was immediate. Then we had met the nurse within an hour of that. The team just started pouring in and the support, and it all happened immediately. Things that would have taken months to happen. So the support was wonderful. From the beginning, just coming in with the educational piece of it, teaching us, the equipment that is out there to help support and keep somebody comfortable, was very helpful. When we were visiting hospitals and regular doctors and pediatricians, it was more about quality and making sure that how she was getting better. But as soon as she was on Little Treasures pediatric program, it was more about her quality of life, and they were able to give her medications and things that would help keep her comfortable. The seizures, went back a little bit more, the twitching. There was just so much that that they were able to do to support Cammie and us, through the process as well. They had a musical therapist that came. She was there from the beginning to the middle, and even the day that Cammie earned her angel wings, she was even there that day as well. The counseling, in the very beginning, it was very hard to talk about things and acknowledge the fact that where we were, but that talking helped. That got me places that I don't know I'd be where I am today and be able to be the person that I am today without that. The planning, even towards the end, as a parent, planning your child's funeral arrangements isn't something that anybody would ever think about having to do, but that support and that help through that process was amazing. The Little Treasures Pediatric Hospice Program has helped me be not only the person that I've always wanted to be, but even more, I feel. There was a time that I felt that when I was going to lose Cammie, or when that day happened, that I wasn't going to be able to pick myself up off the floor, let alone go back to teaching and working with other children. And thanks to this team and the constant support and the counseling and everything and above, I'm now back to teaching, and I love my job more than ever. And I'm able to go out there and support and continue to support the team and the program and share with our story, proudly share our story and help others throughout our community that are now going through this.
Another thing I love so much about Treasure Coast Hospice is how we not only care for the patient, but we surround the whole family with love. We so appreciate Jackie and Jed, not only for their financial support, but also their willingness to continually share their story of Cammie Rose, so others are aware of the services offered by Treasure Coast Hospice.
Like we mentioned before, many people in the community are not aware of the scope of services we offer. I bet most didn't even know about Little Treasures. Another service we offer is so necessary and appreciated, but most seem surprised when we hear about our Treasured Pets program. Take a listen to longtime Treasure Coast Hospice volunteer Sharon Brown as she shares her passion and explains the program.
I've been a volunteer with Treasure Coast Hospice for the last 13 years, and for the past 7, it's really been my privilege, and I have to say my passion, to be the coordinating volunteer for the Treasured Pets program. Simply stated, the mission of Treasured Pets is to help our hospice patients take care of their pets at a time in their lives when it really may be very difficult or almost impossible for them to do it on their own, whether that be physically, financially, or both. If you're a pet lover, like all of us volunteers are, and probably most of you listening to me today, then you know the joy, the sense of purpose, and the unconditional love that pets bring into our lives. And when it comes to our hospice patients, that's even more so an important thing, that we help them to maintain that companionship throughout their end-of-life journey, and to help them overcome their concerns and their grief over what's going to happen to my pet while I'm sick and when I pass. And for us to be able to help in that circumstance, to bring that kind of comfort, is truly a gift. And the kinds of services that we've done in that past fiscal year, over 800 different volunteer services that include home visits, telephone calls, pet food deliveries, dog walking, arranging for veterinarian visits, arranging for grooming visits, and transporting the pets back and forth from their homes to those visits. And another important thing for both our patients and their surviving caregivers is that when there is no one to take the pet, we can help the best we can to provide a new forever home. Our Treasured Pets volunteers have met so many wonderful patients and pets over the course of the years. If they were here, they could tell you 100 stories. So let me just give you kind of an idea of just a few instances. Last year, a year ago at the Lakeside Stroll, our Treasured Pets volunteers were there to man the pet relaxation tent. And we had our materials there, including a flyer for the adoption of 2 dogs that their mom had just passed away. So a grandmother from one of the grieving families that was there for the purposes of the Lakeside Stroll came by with her 2 grandchildren. And the grandchildren immediately leaped on the flyer with the picture of these 2 dogs. And the grandmother was saying, no, we can't do these dogs. We just can't do these dogs. And they kept coming back to the table. Well, we didn't think anything was going to come from it until we got a call. And as it turned out, the grandmother had relented and said, well, maybe we can do one of the dogs. So she came to visit, and of course both of the dogs were there. And guess what? When she left, the 2 granddaughters fell in love with one of the dogs. She fell in love with the other dog, and both dogs got a home. So again, everybody wins. Why is community support so important for Treasured Pets? The first main reason is it's 100% donor funded and 100% volunteer driven. So there are a number of different ways that you can help. First of all, if you're a pet lover, you can certainly volunteer with us. We'd love to have you join our team. If you happen to be a pet professional, a veterinarian, a groomer, or provide other services to pets, please partnership with us and help us to provide the services, provide discounted services, or even free services would be really terrific. It's important that we have donor support through the Treasure Coast Hospice Foundation to help defray the costs of the pet care that we provide to our patients and their pets. Another way that you can certainly support Treasured Pets is through the purchase of our pet tribute bricks that can be installed here at our St. Lucie Inpatient Care Unit gardens and also at our Mays Center gardens. The one thing I'd like to leave you with is that the Treasured Pets program and the unique services that we provide are really special to Treasure Coast Hospice, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do it. And all of us who are volunteers in the program find it a privilege and an honor to be involved.
We currently have about 13 volunteers who are part of our Treasured Pets program. Last year, they served 84 patients, 92 dogs, and 57 cats. In past years, they've even cared for birds and a goat. Like Sharon said, Treasured Pets is all volunteer run and funded by the community. I'd like to give a very special thank you to Joanne Matz, founder of Help Us Help Them through the Pegasus Foundation. Joanne has been such a huge advocate and financial supporter of the program.
All of our donors and volunteers are incredible. And what continues to amaze me are the services we offer at Treasure Coast Hospice. They're not fully covered at all by Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. As we mentioned before, the inpatient, grief support, pediatric care, and treasure pets, to name a few. There are even more, like complementary therapies. Not sure what I mean by that? Here's Treasure Coast Hospice VP of Clinical Services, Rachel Evans, to tell us more.
Our complementary therapies are probably one of the absolute most necessary things that we provide. We provide massage therapy, we provide aromatherapy, and we provide music therapy. Music therapy, it is amazing to watch our music therapist calm and facilitate relationships between spouse and loved ones. I've witnessed that myself. The role that complementary therapy plays in hospice care is the ability for us in the interdisciplinary team to be able to meet the needs of the patients and families. Sometimes a nurse can be very frustrated because maybe the medication isn't working the way that it should, but we can have a music therapist come in and sing the patient's most favorite song, and the pain is decreased and does what the medication can't. So there are a lot of things that complementary therapy does to facilitate the interdisciplinary team approach and to provide a decrease in anxiety for families, decrease in pain for the patient, So it does so much more than just the actual act of the therapy. It really does address the patient's holistic needs. I think that the community support that really separates us as a hospice from other hospices in the community area. It really sets us apart and makes us one of those community hospices that provide care to the community, and we do it in a way that is very holistic. We do not get to bill or charge per se for any of those complementary therapies. Those therapies are provided by our foundation, and we really do depend on that for the support so that we can continue to provide these therapies, because we feel that it is very important that the community gets the benefit from that.
Rachel mentioned the holistic nature of hospice and the many ways the Treasure Coast Hospice staff provides that comfort so needed by people at the end of life. A big part of that holistic care is the spiritual component offered to both the patient and the family while at Treasure Coast Hospice. Listen as Chaplain James Barksdale shares what our chaplain program means to him, as well as the patients and families we care for every day.
Hospice provides spiritual support in a number of different ways. We have our disciplines tend to kind of cross each other at times. Anyone can go in, for instance, and hold someone's hand or provide comfort through words of encouragement, those kinds of things. But I think what we do when we provide spiritual support as chaplains is to offer something just a little bit more than what someone else might be able to provide. A lot of people, for instance, are not comfortable with prayer. And so one of the things that we do as chaplains is to provide that in the context of our spiritual care. And people are spiritual to the core. I think one of the things that most of us would intuitively agree on anyway is that, at the very basis of who we are, there is a certain spirituality to us, however someone might define that. And so we try to meet people where they are as chaplains, in the context of their own unique spiritual experiences and beliefs, and provide support in that context. Spiritual care provides comfort not only to the patient but to the families, and that's one of the things we do as chaplains as well, is to try and meet the spiritual needs of everyone that's involved. So whether they be family or other loved ones, close friends, anyone who may have a close association with that patient, are all people that are in our purview that we can reach out to and provide care for in one way or another. And one of the things that I think that I do as a chaplain, probably more than anything else, is listen to people's stories. My experience has been that when people are able to tell their story, to share the ups and downs of their experiences, the history of where they've been, and to talk about the unknown of their future and how that might be making them feel at the time. All of that is a very healing experience in the lives of the people that we work with. So it's an honor for me as a chaplain to be able to be a part of that, a real privilege to be able to walk that journey with them. The most moving experiences that I've had as a chaplain have been when I've been able to be present when family was gathered around a person's bedside as they actually passed away. That has meant so much to me personally, to be able to be a part of that experience and providing support for everyone involved at that time as they move from this life into the next and cross over that, from this stage of life into the next stage of life. To share hope, to share the peace, and to experience the mercy and grace of God in that context. And so watch the family come together to be that support for each other. Just watch them experience God's sustaining presence in their lives at that time as well.
What an incredible gift Treasure Coast Hospice offers in being there to answer questions, provide comfort, and pray with patients and families. Everyone who shared tonight, whether they are a staff member, a volunteer, or grateful family member, is so passionate about the work Treasure Coast Hospice does in the community.
It's true, Rich, and that passion shines through in their work as a doctor, nurse, CNA, social worker, chaplain, grief counselor, a volunteer, or as a donor. One of the last people we're going to hear from has a long history with Treasure Coast Hospice as a donor, event sponsor, and volunteer. You heard from her earlier in the evening as she shared her personal experience with us, and here she is again, Jimmy Ann Hazley, the current chairwoman of the Treasure Coast Hospice Board of Directors.
I'd like to share with you what inspired me to be a hospice volunteer and chairwoman of Treasure Coast Hospice. Treasure Coast Hospice is a community-based, nonprofit organization that's been around since 1982. I've had many personal experiences with hospice, and I knew after all of those experiences that I needed to find a way to give back. So I decided to become involved with Treasure Coast Hospice. We all are walking the same journey when you think about it, and we all need a hand to hold. And my hand was held many times by Treasure Coast volunteers and all their staff. And I really hope that when it's my time, that someone will be there from Treasure Coast Hospice to hold my hand. I do want to share a little quote from you, and I'm going to read it to you. And this was from a hospice doctor that once said, "I have the wonderful experience of working with the most amazing nurses, social workers, grief counselors, and chaplains. We have a team that is constantly collaborating, working, and teaching each other to provide as much support and comfort as we can for the patient and the families, which I think is really important. I love being able to discuss the medical and social issues with the team. I value the shared opinions and expertise and truly feel that our staff is composed of exceptional people. And I felt that the whole time that I was involved with Treasure Coast Hospice with my families." Another quote from a social worker, which is a slightly different angle. I love her quote, "Working in hospice every day is a gift. You know, everyone should love their job. They should be passionate about it. And I know that's true for the Treasure Coast Hospice staff." She said, "I have the opportunity to touch and be touched by patients and families at one of the most delicate times in their lives. I listen to their fears, support their decisions, and learn who they are. I can be an ear to bounce things off of, a catalyst for uncomfortable conversations, and a gift when patients and families don't know where to turn next. So I'd like to encourage you to be a part of this, and I can assure you that the gift that you give will be just as fulfilling to you. You can do this in many ways. You can be a volunteer. A dedicated volunteer, I have found, is not necessarily one that has the time. It's the one that's dedicated in their heart to be able to help that organization." My husband and I have been involved with Treasure Coast Hospice for a number of years. We not only financially support Treasure Coast Hospice personally, but we also support it through our business and encourage our friends and business colleagues to do so as well. We know firsthand that Treasure Coast Hospice, the community-based hospice, is the one that we want to serve our family and all of our friends.
Thank you, Jimmy Ann. We are so grateful to those in our community who have supported Treasure Coast Hospice by the giving of their time, their talent, and their treasure. We are also thankful for each one of you who tuned in tonight and stuck with us to the end of our program. We hope you learned something, and we hope you share our story and our impact on the community with others.
If you would like to support the work that Treasure Coast Hospice does in the community, go right now to treasurehealth.org/donate or treasurehealth.org, that's Amore, and click the donate button. Remember, your donations tonight are being matched by Ferrara Construction, so what you give is doubled. You can also continue to purchase raffle tickets through midnight tonight, June 25th, at treasurehealth.org/that'samore.
Thank you again to our friends at Ferrara Construction for doing our Donor Match Challenge. And again, thank you for spending your time with us this evening for That's Amore, supporting local restaurants, learning about Treasure Coast Hospice, and loving us enough to give of yourselves. Your generosity truly impacts lives.
And as we close, stay with us just a little longer and enjoy Treasure Coast Hospice music therapist Liz Lung as she sings That's Amore.
When the moon hits your